Tennessee is a fairly quiet place. Much of its land is uninhabited, and if any given area or town is populated at all, there's a fair chance it is inhabited by less than 2,000 people. The majority of this state is unpopulated and rural, so the citizens of small villages here and there are likely to form a sense of community with each other fairly easily. My point is that when a deranged serial killer goes around murdering people in a small town like Brand, Tennessee, everyone is sure to be affected. We're like family around here. This is the story of when I almost caught him. I'm a private detective in Bran. The population of our tiny settlement is a little below 1,000. As a result, you can tell that we don't get much criminal activity here. There were occasional robberies, assaults were extremely rare, and I can barely remember when the last full-blown murder was. So, it was definitely front-page news when there was a reported disappearance in our otherwise quaint town. She stormed into my office, obviously very distraught. She was wearing slippers and a full nightgown, which was being drenched by her sweat and stained by the tears rolling down her face. She looked as if she hadn't gotten a wink of sleep. "Mary Jo, what's wrong? What happened to you?" I asked. "My baby." "What happened? Is this about Melissa?" "She's gone." "Melissa? Are you talking about Melissa? What happened to her?" "Melissa's gone." "Did Melissa run away?" Mary Jo shook her head and mouthed no. Melissa was 16 years old. I immediately drove over to Mary Jo's place to see what had happened. There were already crime scene investigators there, snapping pictures and marking bloodstains. Yes, there was blood. It looked as if Melissa had been dragged out of her room, by the look of the blood trails on the carpeted floor. You may be visualizing a messy, gory scene of large bloodstains everywhere in the apartment, but that was not the case. The blood started on her bed. There was a small 4 cm by 4 cm stain on the corner of her mattress. There were tiny drips on the floor at the edge of her bed. Visualize a faucet about 3 feet above the ground, dripping blood slowly onto the floor. Then, there was a thin line leading from her bed to the front door. It looked as if an artist painted a line of red from Melissa's room to the door with a paintbrush. It was a very unusual scene, and everyone was baffled as to what happened here. Mary Jo claimed to be away on a business trip when it happened, and she discovered the scene when she got back. Apparently, Melissa had been absent from school for 2 days, but they couldn't seem to be able to contact Mary Jo to tell her. From then on, Mary Jo was considered a suspect, but I knew she wouldn't be capable of hurting her daughter. She loved Melissa very much. That night, I went home with a sick feeling in my stomach. Who would do something like that to a little girl? As I was pulling into the driveway, I noticed that my mailbox flag was up. I didn't remember putting a letter inside of there, so I flipped it down without much thought. The next day I went to my office to find a slip of notebook paper in my desk drawer, which was quite strange considering you could only unlock the door to my office using a key only I had. The paper simply read, "Go." Under that fairly concerning caption was a pair of coordinates. Okay, by now I was thoroughly freaked out. I contacted the local police about this note, and they showed up at my office within 5 minutes. I asked them to accompany me in going to these coordinates. They were desperate for leads on Melissa's case, so they reluctantly accepted. The coordinates were located in a very deep, forested area, almost 4 miles away from any kind of road. There was seemingly nothing there until we started digging. We found a body. It was definitely not Melissa. It was a man, probably 50 to 55 years of age. He had a deep laceration in his chest area, and his left hand was missing. It was cut off by some sort of knife or saw. I retched. I had never seen a dead body before. Nobody at the scene could identify the man. I was absolutely petrified at that point. I still had no idea who left the note in my drawer, and how they could get into my office in the first place. Was the person who left the note the same one who abducted Melissa? I still felt queasy when I went back home and drove up to the mailbox to check and see if I got any mail. To my surprise, there was a small envelope with my name on it. I took it inside. I felt an undeniable sense of dread, and my first response was no. Don't open it. Whatever happens, don't open the package. I tried to be calm, but I just couldn't. I was freaking out, and I had no idea what to do. I locked all doors and windows and closed all blinds and curtains. For one of the first times in my life, I felt like I wasn't safe in my own home. I needed some rest. Yeah, I thought. It'll all get better in the morning. I set the envelope on my nightstand and tried to fall asleep. My phone rang. I looked at the screen, and Mary Jo was calling. Why would she call at this time? I wondered. I answered the phone. Mary Jo? I heard her sobbing on the other line. THF. She started crying again. I was holding back tears. This was obviously bad news. They found Melissa. Oh my God, is she okay? No. She's dead. She broke into tears. I didn't need to hear the rest of that word to know what happened. The line cut off after that. I felt defeated. Nothing like that ever happened in Bran until then. I felt so sorry for Mary Jo, and what she must have been going through. My heart still aches for her now. My eyes wandered over to the envelope. Somehow, I knew I had to open it. Inside the manila envelope were many Polaroid pictures with captions underneath each and every one. The pictures were of at least 11 dead bodies, and all had one of their limbs chopped off. The photographs all had names under them: Brian, Shelby, Donald. I hesitated. One of the pictures had the name Melissa under it. I was feeling so many emotions at once: dread, anger, sadness, fear, confusion. Who sent this? Who sent these pictures? Why? Why are they doing this to these people and teasing me about it? The phone rang, and it was Mary Jo again. I answered. At first, total silence. Then, white noise. Mary Jo? The white noise got louder when I said this. I could barely hear a distorted, freakish voice start mumbling gibberish. No matter how hard I try, I cannot describe this voice to you. I couldn't tell if it was male or female, old or young. It was horrifying. After 10 seconds of the mumbling and white noise growing louder and louder, everything stopped. There was absolute silence. I held the phone to my ear, listening to any kind of noise. Just then, I heard the voice. Did you like the photos I gave you? I hung up the phone. No. This was a mistake. This was all a mistake, I thought. I should have never opened that envelope. I was panicking. Nothing could calm me down. What I heard next terrorized me beyond belief. Drip. I heard a faucet running. I had never opened a single faucet since I had arrived at home. I lived alone, too. No pets. I don't know what made me do it, but I foolishly stepped out of bed to turn the damn thing off. I stepped out of my room in the dead of night, my surroundings completely silent other than the trickling faucet downstairs. I climbed down the stairs, slowly and quietly. I immediately felt like I was being watched. I felt so uneasy, but I locked all the doors, so I knew I should be okay. Besides, how would I be able to sleep with that faucet constantly running? The dripping was coming from the kitchen sink. I put my hand on the cold metal handle and turned off the faucet. I immediately realized that the faucet was sticky. I instinctively brought my hand up to my nose, and it reeked of copper as if I had used a penny to wash my hands. I turned on the light. Dried blood. I swiveled around, frantically looking in all directions for an intruder, but there was no one. In the darkness, I didn't see a single shadow. I didn't hear a single peep. I felt so vulnerable in those moments. I was so afraid. Within seconds, I sprinted up the stairs and down the hallway to my room. Just as I turned around to face the hallway and close the door to my room, I saw it. It was standing at the end of my hallway. It was dressed in a brown suit and fedora, with black gloves on the hands of its freakishly long arms. It was almost 7 feet tall, and its most notable aspect was its face. It had no face. Almost all of its features were gone. It had bright reddish-violet skin, and it didn't have a nose, nor eyes, nor ears. Just an enormous, gaping mouth, grinning at me. It ran toward me, and its jagged, bizarre movements were unlike anything that walks on this earth. I slammed the door to my room and locked it. I heard the horrifying sound of its heavy body slamming against my bedroom door. Immediately, I opened the drawer on my nightstand to get my pistol. A sudden clicking noise startled me as I grabbed the gun. It was the sound of the lock on the door, slowly turning to an unlocked position. The creature was opening the lock without touching the lock handle. I aimed my gun straight at the door. It slammed open the door and charged straight at me. I shot once. Bang. I missed. I shot again. Bang. I shot the thing in the shoulder, but it didn't even hesitate. It didn't even acknowledge the fact that it was just shot. One more time. Bang. Point blank in the head. It didn't stop. It didn't react. It kept running, and it reached me. The creature slammed me against the wall and grabbed me by both hands. I frantically waved my hands all over the place, trying to remember what I learned in my self-defense class years ago. It was no use. It had me under control. I used all of my energy and strength to reach over to the gun and cock it. Violently and suddenly, before I could react and pull the trigger, it swiveled both of my hands toward my bedroom window, and I pulled the trigger too late. Bang! I could hear the smashing of glass as the bullet traveled through the window. It tried to force me onto the bed, presumably to tie me up. But I refused to let it. I pushed away from the bed and unintentionally veered us toward the broken window. It steered us closer to the window, and I couldn't fight back. With one final shove from the creature, I fell from my second-story bedroom window. When I hit the ground, I felt paralyzed. I could barely move my body, but I saw it. The creature was standing at the edge of my bedroom window, staring down at me and still wearing that wicked grin. Moments later, it walked away from the window. For about a minute, I was left there, alone. I couldn't move, I could barely breathe. I thought my life was going to end, then and there. Then it walked around the corner of my house. The creature walked slowly to my unmoving body and squatted down. It took one of my hands, unfolded my fist, and placed my pistol in my palm. In that repulsive voice, it said, "Until we meet again." It stood up, turned its back to me, and just started casually strolling away. I wasn't going to let it get away that easily. It took all of my strength to silently cock the pistol, aim at him, and pull the trigger. Bang! I shot his heel. He stopped in his tracks and looked back at me over his shoulder. He stared for almost 20 seconds before continuing to walk away, leaving my weak, motionless body behind. That was the day my life changed, and I don't know if it was for the worse or for the better. No more cases popped up regarding the killer after that encounter, so it seems the creature just disappeared out of thin air after sparing my life. Nobody knew what happened to the serial killer after Melissa's murder, and after it almost killed me. Honestly, looking back, I still don't know why it chose me. Since that experience, I've moved out of Bryan, Tennessee, and I live in South Carolina now. I've quit the whole private detective scene since then. I have a small house with 2 dogs in a fairly populated town. It's been about 3 years since that incident occurred. Today, I went out to get the mail. Inside my mailbox was a manila envelope and a letter. There was no return address. I sat on the rocking chair on my porch and opened the big envelope. The first thing I was greeted with was a very official-looking document that said, "Experiment number 0493, failure." I didn't know what to think. Maybe the letter would explain more. I really wasn't prepared for what I saw in that envelope. This happened about 3 hours ago, so it still sends a chill down my spine. The letter was addressed to me at the top. It said, "Did you really think I would let you forget? You thought you could escape your troubles by moving away, didn't you? Well, you were wrong. Maybe you should come back to Bryan and stay for a while." Signed, 0493. There was dried blood on the letter. I immediately knew who had sent it, and was overcome with a sense of dread. I looked at the files and decided to sift through them. There were very strange images and logs detailing a horrifying experiment based around creating a brand new species of intelligent humanoid creature. Think about what you would find on the deep web, and how you would feel if you stumbled across some disturbing content. This was how I felt. Near the end of all the files was a picture. It was a photo of the thing that attacked me that fateful night 3 years ago. It was captioned, "Dangerous carnivorous creature. Highly intelligent. Too aggressive. Termination should begin immediately." Just then, my TV turned on. I didn't even touch the remote. It was just sitting on the table. The television was on the news channel, and a large headline flashed across the screen: "Massacres in Tennessee. Serial killings instill fear in the state's citizens." My jaw dropped. He's back. So, what do you think, guys? Is it time to pay Bryan one last visit?